takes time to mature. So does wine. Not all wines, but most wines, you put them in a cellar for a bit and they start to taste better after a couple of years. And Assetto Corsa is very much a cheese or a red wine, in that each progressive update that's come out, it has matured and it's got more features and generally, not always, but generally has improved in its handling characteristics, its feel, and the overall enjoyment that you can get from it. And I have to say, the 1.9 update, which came out last week, is no exception. It absolutely does improve the enjoyment, the maturity, the feel, and the edibility of the driving in Assetto Corsa. As with any of the previous big updates to Assetto Corsa, there's a massive list of things that have been improved, changed, and tweaked. But from a player's perspective and the end result of what it is to play Assetto Corsa, I would say the most noticeable improvements come in the sound and specifically the quality of public server racing. Now that's because Kunos have done a massive overhaul of their F-mod implementation and their sound implementation. And it has been the case with previous DLCs that we've noticed that newer cars definitely sound better from a sort of technical perspective. The recordings and how they've been implemented has gradually improved as new cars have come out. But also overall now, just the way the sound operates, how the volume levels of opponents, how opponents sound when they're near you, how the sound distorts and changes if you're in a spectator view and the cars go past you. You really do notice that, and I think with the 1.9 update, it gives it AC an extra degree of polish and spit shine that really adds to the immersion. From a cockpit perspective, when you're actually driving around the track, one thing that's especially noticeable is when you're now driving in amongst other cars, because the way they've designed the audio levels and some of the actual details that come from the opponent cars when you're near them, you feel far more tension being close to another car when you can hear its exhaust spluttering all over your bonnet, and you can actually much more precisely determine the location of other vehicles now, whereas previously, prior to this 1.9 update, it could be hard in a pack of cars to tell where everyone was unless you had something like Heli Corsa, which we've bravely turned off to test and rely on the in-game sounds. Now, I wouldn't say the car positional audio is precise with stereo headphones as, say, iRacing, for example, in terms of determining where the people are, but it's a massive step in the right direction, and from a basic immersion perspective, it really does add quite a lot. Of course, there's a massive change log of everything they've done to the sound, but we'd be here talking until the Earth was enveloped by the sun if we were to go through every single one. But needless to say, the sound improvements for 1.9, absolutely fantastic. Now on to the improvements for public server racing. Kunos have essentially implemented some omnipotent Robocop god that now watches over the race and rates people on a point system for each contact per kilometre. Now this setting is available to anyone that runs a server, and it's tweakable and set-upable for server admins, so it's not the same on every single server. But the point is, by default now, in Assetto Corsa, there's the ability for server admins to set things up so that if someone has car contacts regularly, they can be sent to the North Korean death squad and executed. And this fear of the North Korean driving simulator death squad seems to have had good effect. Of the public servers that I've raced on since the 1.9 update came out, the racing seems to be a lot better. Now, there seems to be a lot less griefing, although I don't think griefing was that much of a problem, especially thanks to minnow rating and just good server administration, which had already improved AC quite a bit in public servers. But it seems even better now in that you still have people having accidents, but if you're watching a GT4 class in reality, there's lots of accidents. You put rich people in cars, there's going to be crashes. It's the same with poor people. You put poor people in a simulator, there's going to be crashes. But crucially now, that the crashes that do happen and the sort of car contacts that do happen now seem a lot more realistic, and it's just really that fear of the North Korean death squad just seems to have added that touch more authenticity to the racing, with people being just a little bit more careful. Normally, I'm more of a carrot person than a stick, but when it comes to public server racing, it seems a big turgid, spiky metal shaft is required to rein things in and get people to drive properly. But all in all, the public server racing, from my experience over this last week or so of playing the update, has massively improved and is much more enjoyable. And I would have thought that this update will also be rolled out to the consoles. It was probably because of the disaster of public servers on consoles that this update was even considered, this change and implementation of this code was even considered. So hopefully that comes to consoles and improves things there. But that has massively improved public server racing, so good job there for Kunos. Other aspects that seem to have been really improved, I'm going to put my neck on the train line here. We're going to get beheaded by the placebo effect, I'm pretty sure. But, mind you, if I'm putting my neck on the train line in the UK, the train's going to be delayed, so I'll have time to think about it and maybe change my mind. But from the cars I've tried, and this could be just because it's the new Porsches, but I've tried some of the older cars, it definitely seems like the way the cars recover from a good old clipping of the curb is more realistic and a lot tighter. So previously, what seemed to have happened, hopefully this isn't placebo and hopefully I'm not just making this up, it will be the case, I know it, but previously it definitely seemed like cars would oscillate quite a lot after a big bump. And as a result, you'd have to be extra careful going over curbing. You could lose the back of cars where you'd probably expect them to be more stable. But gradually, as Kunos have done update after update, I think the way suspension responds to big, sharp impacts has improved. And in this 1.9 update, it would seem to me, for whatever reason, that it's now at a level where I can smash those curbs, well, not all curbs, but curbs that you would expect to be able to smash, and recover from that just as you would expect a real car to. And I think that makes quite a big difference, especially on tracks like Imola, or even the NGK chicane on the Nürburgring GP, where you do want to be clipping some of those curbing, even though they're quite large curbing. So I think that's a really big improvement, which hopefully I haven't made up. I probably have. If I have, oh well, it'll be a quick death, train over the head, and that's it. Goodbye world. Outside of those really big improvements and changes, as I say, there's a massive list of changes, but outside of those really big ones, there's just a general incremental improvement in the simulator. Now, onto the Porsche Pack DLC, which of course has been launched alongside the 1.9 update. So in the Porsche Pack DLC, you get the 911 Carrera S, the 935 Moby Dick. Who doesn't like a bit of Moby's dick? I love it when I'm going around the Nürburgring GP. The 918 Spider, the Cayman, hey, I'm the Cayman GT4 Club Sport. The 718 Cayman S, the 9 Cayman S. Why am I saying Cayman? What's gone wrong with me? We'll just gloss over that. Pretend I didn't say it like that. The 917/30 and the 911 Carrera S. RSR 3.0 1974. Dyslexia strikes and we can't say car names. Now, of the cars, they're all absolutely stunning. Each car is definitely worth driving and going through. Most noticeably, though, especially with the modern Porsches that have found their way, wriggled their way like worms on a rainy day up through the soil into this Car Pack Volume 1, what I think Kunos have really succeeded in doing is getting the character that I sort of say defines Porsche cars, and that is the way that Porsches in particular power out of corners, in that you when you get on the gas, the car stays lined up with the direction of the track, so pointing forwards, then the car sort of slides out on the power without the back shifting outwards. So it's like when you get on the throttle, you sort of crab walk out of corners. To me, as someone that's never driven a real Porsche, one day maybe we'll have the money to do so, but just from someone that's observed it in onboard videos of real world cars and just looked at Porsches in general, to me that seems to be the trademark Porsche car physics characteristic. There's a whole bunch of other characteristics that are trademark Porsche ones, but that seems to be the most noticeable, most obvious aspect of a Porsche that I think Kunos have really captured, especially with the more modern Porsches in the game. And also, having that character is something that I don't think was particularly with other vehicles in Assetto Corsa. So even if you don't particularly care about the Porsche brand or what Porsches look like, or Porsches at all, it's worth getting the pack just to experience the new physics and gameplay dynamics that these cars offer. I would say a really unfortunate thing that has happened with this update is that the STD of GT4 GT servers, public servers, has struck again, and just about everybody is running the Cayman GT4 Club Sport on every single server. So if you do like public server racing and you just want to casually drive some of these cars against other people in a sort of race format, if you want to drive anything other than the Cayman GT4, you might have to look about a bit more. But if you like the Cayman GT4 Club Sport, wow, boy, you have a good 30 or so servers to pick from. Now, of the Porsche car pack, I'd say the two most interesting cars would be the Porsche 918 Spyder and then the 917-30. Now, the reason why the 918 Spyder is specifically interesting is because it is a hybrid vehicle, and with that, it brings completely new dynamics from any of the vehicles in Assetto Corsa. The most noticeable dynamic is how the car handles on the brakes, in that the car really does want to sort of squirm away from you, but at the same time it does kind of stay calm-ish. If I was to be driving this car in real life around the Nordschleife, for example, I would expect myself to have probably vomited, had a panic attack, and probably require a new pair of trousers within 2 or 3 corners. In the simulator though, it's really exciting and just really fun trying to push it, though you sort of do want to give a good sort of 10-15 centimetres leeway on towards the edge of the track on the braking. And of course it does also have absolutely ridiculous power and top end speed. It's just a really interesting car to drive compared to, as I say, anything else that's in the simulator. Now, with the Porsche 917/30, what this car really does nicely is how the car behaves when you whack the turbo on 100% and then try and balance the car on the power when the turbo kicks in with a little bit of slip angle just to maximise your speed through corners. It's really, really satisfying in nailing that with your balancing your foot, a little bit of counter steer, and then just being aware that you're driving a complete monster of a door wedge. Especially if you take it for a spin around the Nordschleife. It's an absolutely fantastic car, and again brings something completely new to the simulator. It is worth saying though, it does have that garden shed vibe to it, but you know, to be fair, that again adds the excitement. It's another car that if driven in real life, I would probably again be vomiting, shaking, and probably need 3 or 4 years of post-traumatic stress counselling just from 2 or 3 corners. As I say, all in all, the Porsche pack is absolutely fantastic, well worth getting, but those two cars in particular, just because of the differences they bring to the simulator from what's in there before, really do stand out. Now, rather than have this video be a 90-minute epic, which I don't know who has time to watch some British idiot talk about simulators for 90 minutes, rather than that, what I would say is just get the DLC, and if you've been on the fence for Assetto Corsa, now is the time to pick it up, even more so if you're going to play it in VR. Unfortunately, no open VR at the moment. Please, kudos. I mean, I know I'm a little bit brain damaged, but we need open VR. It's good that we can use Revive, we can play it, but some aspects of Revive aren't perfect in that the scale is still a little bit off. You know, please, open VR. But regardless, if you're on the fence, if you've got a VR headset, if you sort of looked at AC from afar and you like driving games, like realistic driving simulators, you just need to get it now. It's at that point where it is the cheese that's ready to be plucked from the cellar, loft, or wherever you put cheese to mature. It's the wine that's ready to drink. Go and get it. Pick up this DLC. If you're going to get any of the DLCs, get this Porsche DLC. You can ignore the other ones. I'd get them as well, but you could ignore them. The Porsche one, I think, brings the most to it. Easily the best update that we've had to Assetto Corsa in recent times, in the times of Assetto Corsa. So with that, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video. Also, if you want to ask us questions, go on our Twitch channel, Game of Muscle on Twitch. We stream on both Twitch and YouTube, so you can catch us, you can ask us questions live, or even race with us. Until the next video, which will be very soon indeed, and probably VR related, thanks for watching, and goodbye. with absolute precision. It's simply not the case that a developer could slap them into their Unity project and end up with something that plays well. It's the small details that make or break VR games.